Hey, my name is Steven School with the Steven School Alchemy YouTube channel. I want to find out what happens if I put two magnetic stirrups in my flask at the same time. This is my crystal growing experiment where I want to see what kind of a stone or crystal I could make, possibly with copper and sulfur. So I've reduced the copper with nitric acid, poured off the solution, decanted it, and after the reaction was done, and then I poured it in here and added sulfur, and so I've got a magnetic stir bar in here going, and there's a lot of changes in the flask. The appearance of the matter within has changed considerably. It's frothy and foamy and a different texture, and seems to be, mixed up a lot. It's been well mixed, so it needs more mixing, and I want to see about adding another stir bar. Maybe it'll mix it a lot better. Maybe I'll get better results. So I've got one stir bar in there, and I'm going to add a second. All right. This package of stir bars are all the same. They're all identical. Got 10 of them. One in there, adding a second. Second one is in place. Stopper is reinserted. Turn it on. It seems to be agitating it better. Interesting. I bought this magnetic stir hot plate used on eBay, and the seller assured me it was in great condition, but that it did not come with a stir bar, and that everything worked properly. So I had to buy stir bars separately. The hot plate portion definitely works really good. This thing is just very precise. I mean, just a tiny little movement of the dial changes the temperature, and it's got a digital readout up here. It seems very precise. I'm very happy with that. But the stir bar for the magnetic stirrer portion, I don't think it works 100%. The top of this has obviously had some touch-up painting done, but the stir bar portion, the hot plate works great, but the stir bar portion I don't think is acting as it should. I don't think it's 100%. That's what I'm getting at. I've had cheaper magnetic stirrers that did better than this. course, this is a tough subject to stir because the water of crystallization in here, it had crystallized. If you watched my previous videos, it had crystallized and was very hard. But after letting this magnetic stir run for several hours, it did do a decent job of breaking that stuff up. Mhm. He gets an attitude problem. He's a hothead. He gets an attitude problem. He will be a hothead. He will get an attitude problem, and he will start being a dick to me and riding me around the warehouse. Yeah, and telling me he doesn't agree with what you tell him, doesn't want to do, you're not going to do anything you tell him, but do what he wants to do. So I told him, don't be another Adrian, dude. I told him, just do what Chris tells you to do. Don't be an Adrian. Yeah, and then he just started blowing up at me. So I just called him Adrian. I just said, okay, Adrian. You know. The twins are not here. Yeah. He's got an attitude problem. He's an arrogant bastard. Yes. He did what his father told him to do. His last job didn't work out because of fighting at work. And, well, he blames it all on the other guy. But from what I've seen, yeah, whatever. Alright. Don't listen to me. I started mumbling some nonsense. Been a long day. Anyway. So the stir bar portion on this thing kind of is not impressive. There it goes. I think the water of crystallization in here, it crystallizes, gets really hard, and it interferes with the stir bar. That's part of it. I think as it starts breaking up the crystals in there, it's going to really start doing a better job of mixing. One thing I find interesting is this stuff up here in the neck of the flask. These droplets up here that form, they're very interesting to me, and I wonder how they'll react to high heat. stir bars are reacting better now. Trying to type a comment here, but it doesn't look like it's going well. All right. So I've got 2 magnetic stir bars in this flask, trying to speed up the mingling of the elements. And I've got it on 60 degrees Celsius. So the color and texture of this thing has changed considerably. It's more like a whipped paste, and the color is more greenish instead of a very pronounced blue. It's mixing it up better than it was. Maybe I can get the camera in closer. Let's see about bringing the camera closer to the reaction. Alright, I've got a flashlight here. See if this will help. So my plan is to mix the copper vitriol, copper nitrate is what this is. Now in science terms, it may be different. This isn't me. But this is my copper nitrate and sulfur, and I want to mix these two really good. And then I want to try and bond them together, unite them in heat. And the reason these little droplets up here in the neck of the flask are interesting to me is because alchemists supposedly may have discovered alchemical gemstones, or the beginning of synthetic gemstones, man-made gemstones. And these droplets up here are very pretty color. They're stationary, they're not moving. They're very sparkly, very pretty. And I want to see how they react to heat. That may help them to show better. Oh, we have comments here. Hi, Kim, how are you doing? Yes, ma'am, I can tell you what I'm doing here. So, I made copper nitrate with copper metal and nitric acid. When the reaction stopped, I poured off the solution, decanted it. That water crystallized, most of it, a lot of it crystallized and some didn't, into very interesting crystals, which led me to research online, and I came up with something called water of crystallization. So I put that material in here and I added sulfur. I hear you. Trying to survive here too. Okay, so now what I want to do is try and unite the copper nitrate to the sulfur. And to start with, I'm planning to mix it really good with this magnetic stirrer. And once it's really very thoroughly mixed, hopefully on a molecular level, then I want to unite them in heat. If they'll unite, I'll see what happens. Who knows what they'll do. I want to see if it makes a stone or a crystal. Maybe try throwing it into molten lead and see if it'll do anything. And yes, I want to see if it'll make gold. I do want to see that. I'm not saying it will. But iron and sulfur makes iron pyrite, which is not quite gold. It looks similar, but it's different. And iron is not a noble metal. It's an inferior metal. So I want to see about what happens if I unite copper to sulfur. And I'm not just uniting the copper metal to sulfur, which I may try later, but I've reduced the copper metal to copper nitrate with acid first, get it down to an ionic crystalline level, and mix the elements, perhaps recreate the atom, restructure the atom from copper and sulfur. Since copper is a noble metal, and this is not for consumption. I'm sure this is probably very toxic. But I want to try to make a stone or a crystal with this, and then hopefully cast it on molten lead or molten metal. Maybe I might add it to mercury and see if it'll tinge mercury. Yes, definitely will be toxic. The mixing definitely seems to be going better with 2 stir bars in here. Look at those droplets in the neck of the flask. It caused a phrase to come to mind. When I looked at that, when I first saw it, the phrase that came to mind was tears of the sun. And they are pretty. I wonder if when I get to the heat stage, if they'll turn red. They may. Thank you. I'm going to grab a flask of one of my other flasks of copper nitrate so I can show the difference of what this looks like now as opposed to what it did look like. I'll be right back. All right, so here, this is an old first aid kit box that I keep in some of my alchemy flasks in. These are empty glass vials that I buy to store some of my experiments in. Some of them are full. This one's looking interesting. This is the glass from my video about the Actum Laden letter, and it's got sea salt, copper metal, and white vinegar in there, and it's showing pretty green color, kind of a nice sea green in there. Okay, so this is some of my blue vitriol, my copper nitrate, corked. Yes, the cork is in it. It's got a cork in it. So, in researching about science online about blue vitriol, I come up with copper. I think it was copper and sulfuric acid or copper sulfate. But this is not science. This is alchemy. And what I've discovered is that copper and nitric acid, dilute nitric acid, I think it was 68% from a gold mining supply store. is what I use to react with copper metal to create this. Alchemical substances are supposed to be different than science substances. So here's another copper nitrate that I made. And when I researched this online after I made it and I saw the crystals form, I discovered something online about water crystallization. So this water that I made from copper and nitric acid, it forms crystals in there, and they're very hard crystals. Okay, and then this is a tincture I made from iron pyrite. It's like a heavy concentrated gold color with kind of a salt in the bottom, or crystals, if you will, like a crystal formation. This flask, this is a vegetable stone I made. I took the sulfur of the vegetable stone and added mercury to it, and the whole thing turned black. So I still have that. And then this is some of my pyrite tincture diluted to show the color. It's diluted with water. I have done some work on the vegetable stone, and I made a video, and my understanding of it at this level is very much deeper than what most people's opinions are of the vegetable stone. So if you look through my videos, the one with the flaming horse as the yes, the video's on YouTube. It's in my YouTube videos on alchemy, and it has the thumbnail image with the flaming horse. That one, that video is about the vegetable stone, and I will actually pull up the title here. I'm going to go to YouTube in my phone. Got my cell phone here. Okay, so in my YouTube videos, it's called Alchemy and the Stone of the Meadows. And it's got the flaming horse there as the thumbnail image. That is about the vegetable stone, and in some other countries like Germany, it's called differently. It's a popular term is the Stone of the Meadows. So I thought that was an interesting term, so I went with it. It probably is 20 minutes long. Okay, that one's very descriptive. Yeah, the double stir bar thing does seem to be helping. Definitely mixing it better. You're welcome. So this magnetic stirrer that I bought, the hot plate, works very good, but the stirrer portion, I don't think it's operating 100%. Oh, you're welcome. So I'm trying to see what kind of a stone or crystal I can make with copper and sulfur, and I want to test it and see if it makes gold. Test it on perhaps mercury or maybe molten metal. Basically, I'm trying to reproduce iron pyrite, but with copper and sulfur instead of iron and sulfur. Since copper is more of a noble metal, and iron will rust. So I want to stir the ionic solution of copper nitrate very well with the sulfur powder. Mix it as good as I can on a molecular level, and then try to unite the two in heat. Raising the heat, melting the sulfur. The heating equipment, this is a thermoscientific Cimarec hot plate. I don't know if they still make these. This is an expensive hot plate. I got this one used on eBay. I like it. It's a nice hot plate, but the stirrer portion doesn't. I don't think it's at 100%. But the hot plate portion works very good. I believe this goes up to 400 degrees Celsius, which is plenty hot. It's got a digital readout here. So I've got it at 60 degrees Celsius. And if I turn it up, it goes all the way to 400 degrees Celsius. It heats up very fast. So I paid right close to $210 for this hot plate stirrer on eBay. And I think new they were more like 500, maybe a little more. But the hot plate portion works excellent. If I move it around, the stir bar works differently. I'm trying to find that spot where it'll just start working really good, because I know that when I put 2 stir bars in an empty flask, they were reacting much better than this. They were really, really wildly swinging around in there in an empty flask. So it could be the water of crystallization holding them back, because the crystals that form in this copper nitrate are very hard. I think you can see the crystals in there. There you go. Those crystals just formed really quickly in the liquid solution without doing anything. And they're extremely hard. They're very hard. And I believe at dryness, their color is more like transparent, more clear, but when they're wet, it's a very pretty blue color in the liquid solution. And these glasses are not meant to take heat. They're just for storage of samples. So you can see the material in that flask looks much different than this. By adding sulfur and using the stir bar to mix the two, it's frothy and foamy, like a whipped paste. And the color has changed. So the vitriol is interesting. The one made from the iron pyrite, I want to do more work with this stone. Well, this is not a stone yet, but I want to bring this solution into a stone. I would believe I can make a stone with this. And then I want to repeat the experiment over again with new materials based on the guidelines of a Paracelsus recipe that I read many years ago. And then make a stone from iron pyrite, basically following the Paracelsus recipe, but using my own ingredients. So I'll be, following his recipe, but substituting the ingredients. And let's get a look at this. So this is my Actum laden letter flask. And the color is like sea green. And what's going on down in the flask is very interesting. Dissolution, coagulation, recrystallization. There's green salt crystals down here. So the sea salt and vinegar basically corrodes at the copper metal, and then we get dissolution and coagulation, and it reacts better when I open it and let oxygen in. The more often I do that, the better the reaction is, or the faster. If I don't open it, the reaction seems to actually stop. So oxygen seems to play an important role. And there are some really dark green crystals down there. Yeah, this stir bar, the stirrer portion here leaves a little to be desired. It's going better there. It's not as good as I had hoped, but it's mixing the elements. Yes, the green iron is very interesting. The green salt, a lot of people have different opinions of green lions, especially since there's 3 realms in alchemy: plant, animal, and mineral. But as far as being a completed stone, no. Just based on Lapidus in Pursuit of Gold and the Actum laden letter. So I found a book in a thrift store that had a section on alchemy that listed 3 words, so I referred to it as the book of 3 words. And the 3 words were basically sea salt, vinegar, and copper. So I took that information and applied it to the Actum laden letter, formulated this composition, and then began observing the reactions. So the sea salt and vinegar basically acts at dissolving the metal, which is slow and takes a long time. So it's like a menstruum, it might be a good word for it. It's not the completed stone or a completed stone. It's a menstruum to, or I don't know if alkahest is the right word, but it's a menstruum. The sea salt and vinegar is basically a menstruum to reduce the copper back into its first matter, back into its ionic elements. So I know somewhere in alchemy, a long time ago, I read that alchemists, they would take a metal and reduce it to its first matter and cause it to go back to growing as it was um, a crystal in the caverns. And so theoretically, that may be what's going on in here, dissolving the copper and then um, causing the crystals to grow and then see what it evolves into. So this stir bar was going for several hours yesterday. Now it's got 2 stir bars. And I'm thinking it's going to go for several hours today. You know, I don't know how long it'll take until these materials are thoroughly mixed. There's still some chunks of sulfur in here that aren't powdered yet. And I want this well dissolved and well mixed. There are changes going on the more it mixes. Dissolution, yes. Not coagulating yet. Right now I'm dissolving them together, and then I want to coagulate them later in heat when they are very well mixed as they can be. But other changes are, if we look at the blue color of the copper nitrate and the yellow color of the sulfur, blue and yellow, kind of like King Tut's coffin, the colors have changed because the blue has become more green. It's starting to become like more of a sea green, like sea foam. And the yellow is becoming more white as they mix and mingle. So when I coagulate this, or attempt to coagulate it, when I get to that stage, I'm going to be raising the heat by degrees. And I'm thinking there should be a good chance of the color changes resulting in a red material. So I kind of want to see what color develops when if I can get this to melt and heat, if it'll turn into something like a red crystal or a red stone. I think I've already got a lot of hours invested in this experiment, and I think I'm going to have a lot more hours invested in it before it's over with. But I will post updates on YouTube. I'm going to let this continue to mix for probably several hours tonight. The plant stone. Why did the plant stone turn black? First of all, it's not really a complete plant stone in here. It's basically the sulfur element of the plant stone, or my plant stone, added to elemental mercury just to see what it would do. I wanted to see if it would coagulate the mercury, and the whole matter turned black, which is interesting. Black is interesting in alchemy. My end goal for this, well, the old experiment with the mercury, I just wanted to see if it would coagulate the mercury, or perhaps even make gold, but it turned black. And that's interesting. Alchemists spoke of their black stage, so that was interesting. But the end goal for this experiment, I don't really consume a lot of substances, and I don't recommend consuming any substances. A lot of alchemists were said to have injured themselves by consuming substances. So I like to experiment and observe and learn and see what happens. This is mixing better now. But I believe the question was asked, what's my end goal for this? My end goal for this experiment right here is to see if I can unite the copper nitrate and the sulfur, and if I can make any type of a stone or a crystal. I want to observe the reactions and the changes, what the end product is, and then I want to test the end product by adding it to metal. I would say this is toxic. This is not for consumption. But I'll see the color changes. I'll see the coagulation. I'll see what the end product looks like that is obtained, and then I'll test it with metallurgy, amalgamation. I'd like to melt some metal and add some of this finished product to it and see what it does. Alright, my stir bars are not stirring the way I want them to. They seem to work better on a lower setting. Yes, ma'am, this is poisonous. Yeah, cinnabar would be exciting. Cinnabar would be very exciting. Okay. I think those two magnetic stir bars may have stuck together. The other ones are all sticking together. I think next time I order magnetic stir bars, I might try a different one, maybe longer. This one looks to be about roughly an inch long. Maybe a 2-inch stir bar would do better. Or one with a shape to it. They have different shapes available. I just got these because, they came with the magnetic pickup tool that I can use to reach in the flask and remove them. I'll try to keep those away from my electronic equipment. So the atom-laden flask reminds me of the ocean. Maybe I'll shake it up a bit more. Mix it up really good. It's interesting. It kind of looks like what's in the other flask when I shake it up. I believe what's going on here is I'm uncovering different paths that alchemists use over different time periods, like different centuries, to achieve the same goals as they advanced in the learning curve and developed more advanced products to work with, like acids. What's this? This is my this is the flask from my videos about Lapidus in Pursuit of Gold and the atom-laden letter. And the color is looking similar to the other flask. Different different ingredients, different techniques, different methods, both on copper. And one progresses much faster than the other. Yeah, it's a good book. Lapidus in Pursuit of Gold is a very good book. If anybody doesn't have it, it's actually posted online. Well, as far as covering the antimony path, a lot of alchemists wrote in secret code. So when I read an alchemy book like that, I generally assume that the ingredients mentioned are probably not to be taken at face value, which means that maybe they should be taken at face value, but I kind of think that most alchemy books are written in code, so to speak. Lenny Peterson books. I did look into that a bit. I'm going to look into that again and refresh my memory. And I'm going to write a note about this again. Lenny Peterson. I believe, didn't you tell me that he had books on Amazon? I did look into that, but it's not fresh in my mind. It's been a minute since I looked it up. Matter of fact, let me get my phone here. And I'll see about looking up Lenny Peterson. Okay. Google suggested the phrase Lenny Peterson books in order. God forms of the Golden Dawn tradition. Lenny Peterson. Oh, and here's the entire great work photographed by Roger Caro, and it mentions Lenny Peterson also. Yes, you can post some links there. That's a good idea. So here's something that I pulled up. And I want to look at the other one. The entire great work photographed. Ugh. So this one came up in the search results. The entire great work photographed by Roger Caro, and it had a Lenny Peterson tag. But it said this book is not currently available, so I believe that book is on the Cinnabar path. Lapis Publications, Hermetic Science Enterprises. Author unknown. Contributors Lenny Peterson. There's a lot of stuff comes up for Lenny Peterson. Okay, here's a picture. It says Sterling Publishing, Edinburgh. Lenny Peterson, Publishing Director. It's interesting. Right, I got a cramp in my hand. Look at that. See my thumb? The muscle is spasmed and locked up, and it hurts. I'm going to move it around and get it to release, and then digging into the Lenny Peterson stuff. I don't know if this is the same person, but it says something about an obituary. I don't think that's the same person. I think that's a different Lenny Peterson. The Alchemical Dictionary. I've heard that term. That sounds interesting. My stir bar was working. I seem to have got it stuck. This is a big hot plate. I wonder if the size of this hot plate affects the magnetic stirrer. Also, the fact that this flask is small. This is only a 250 ml flask, and this hot plate is very large. And also, my stir bars are short. Maybe a longer stir bar would be in order. I won't let you paste a link. It's probably something in my settings. You could probably paste the links on my Facebook page. I have a Facebook page that has a large following. It's called Alchemy Symbols. I don't do Skype, no, but I have a Facebook page called Alchemy Symbols. It has a very large following, so you might be able to post the links on there if you want. Mixing it a little bit. I'm thinking the one stir bar did better by itself. The Lapidus egg experiment, a hybrid of the AL accumulated letter and In Pursuit of Gold. I haven't yet birthed it, but I believed. Basically, it's a hybrid of using the three words salt, vinegar, and copper. Using those along with the actum laden letter, just inserting those words into the actum laden letter as the possible ingredients, and also inserting those words into the Lapidus in Pursuit of Gold book as the possible ingredients. And I'm thinking that they may very well fit. So if that is the case, then it would appear that I've unlocked a secret key to the mystery of the Acton-Layton letter and possibly In Pursuit of Gold book. So I want to see where that leads, and it does coincide with some of my other experiments using different ingredients, like this one that used copper metal, nitric acid, and sulfur. You know, the colors seem to be similar, or perhaps even the same. Although the experiment with the nitric acid was a much faster, produced much faster results. So my two magnetic stir bars have stuck together, and that's why they're not working that well. I didn't really want them to stick together, and I don't know if I should be just grabbing this solution with my fingers, because I could, absorb through my skin. And I do have some tweezers, but don't have them handy. So here we are, muddling up my Tears of the Sun. So here, what I do is take this off of here. And I'm going to, this is interesting, where it's the material on the stir bar is like a seafoam colored paste, but where it touches the tissue, it turns back to the blue color. And so it's basically separating the copper nitrate from the sulfur by touching it to the tissue. The tissue is taking the copper nitrate, and then the sulfur is remaining on the magnetic stir bar, which is reverting back to its yellow color. So it's just separating the two. And here I am making a mess. All right, so there, I got one stir bar back in there. And I'm just making a mess with the rest of this stuff. All right. So here's the magnetic pickup tool. We'll get a look at that. All right. So this portion of what I'm doing is not uniting the sulfur and the copper nitrate. It's just breaking them down into smaller pieces and mixing them really good. And then I want to try to unite them in heat. Okay. I'm going to put the stopper back in this thing. Okay, the single stir bar is working better by itself. I'm going to wash my hands really quick since I got this stuff all over my fingers. Alright. Dang, this video's been on for a while. Yeah, the hospital, this is not a good time, is it? With all the COVID stuff going on, there's no telling what they'll do to me. It might look like Frankenstein's laboratory. They might strap me down to the gurney and get medieval. There we go. The single stir bar works better by itself. I don't know if I want the vaccine. I don't know if I trust the vaccine. I mean, in alchemy, I believe that medicine comes from the garden. 5G, I don't need 5G. I don't know that it's to my benefit, but I believe that medicine comes from the garden. So this is mixing very well. If I let it continue to mix, for a lot of hours. Honey, yes, honey, I believe, has some healing qualities. Hello, Susie. It's good to see you. I wonder if I can share this video to Facebook here. Just post it. Okay, I started to Facebook. So let's see what's going on here. When my flashlight starts conking out like that, it usually means it needs new batteries. So the material is looking frothy and foamy, much different than the original blue. No, it's all right, Kim. I understand how it is. I mean, when I get excited about something, I post a lot of links, and if you want to post affiliate links, it's fine. But I think my YouTube settings probably are interfering with links. But if you go to my Facebook pages, like I say, my Alchemy Symbols Facebook page has a huge following, and you could probably put your links on there, and I can probably pull up a link to that page. Says I have 27,000 likes on that page. right, the link here. Okay, so I've got a link here to my Alchemy Symbols page. I'm going to post it. It's got 27,000 likes. You should be able to put links on there. If you want to put affiliate links, it's fine. I don't know if it's posting. It doesn't seem to be posting. I don't think it's posting. Huh. Well, if you can find your way to my Facebook page, I'll post a link on there to the Alchemy Symbols page. All right. It doesn't seem to be letting me post it on here. Let's try it again. It's not letting me post the link here. The band tool. I believe there is a lot of alchemy in the music industry. Cool. This looks like it's got a lot of mixing left to do. But it's definitely making progress. Okay. There's one of my Tears of the Sun up there. Wonder if I can get it closer to the camera and show it better. That blue thing. Those things were all over the neck of the flask. A translucent, transparent, pretty blue object looking like a stone or a crystal. Like it formed from a droplet of the liquid crystallizing. So I want to see what those do in heat. There's the mixing going on well. I wonder if I should turn up the heat a bit. Sorry, I got my Rottweiler in here. So I've turned up the heat to 70 degrees Celsius. I want to take a picture of this blue crystal-y looking thing up here. It might show up better in a picture. It is an interesting, pretty color. That blue crystal looking thing in the neck of the flask is what I'm interested in. I will post this picture to my YouTube channel. Under the community tab. What are some good Paracelsus writings that pop out into your mind? Treasure of Treasures. All right, so on my YouTube channel under the community tab, I posted the picture with a little paragraph of information about it, and I'm interested in that blue thing. So far, I'm calling it a thing. I'm not just going to jump to conclusions and call it a sapphire or a gemstone, but I do want to take a further look at that. I think it might be time to take my, well, I thought I was going to take my dog for a walk, but she seems to be eating. She might not be ready to go for a walk just yet. Here's a picture that I posted on YouTube of an earlier picture of this experiment, so you can see some of the changes that have gone on in the flask. And here's a picture from one of my earlier experiments that I did, amalgamating elements together, including sulfur, and then casting them on molten metal. So this, the experiment that resulted in this image, which is on the cover of my book, Alchemy and the Green Lion, it was kind of a similar experiment with a little bit different ingredients and a different approach. It was a dry path experiment. This is mixing pretty good. I think when I, really put the heat to this experiment, I should probably do it outside, do it outdoors, just in case of fumes. Because I fully believe that this could put out some toxic fumes if I really turn the heat up. So, as a matter of fact, I think I'm going to turn the heat off for now. I'm just going to let the magnetic stir bar do its thing. Yes, madame? All right, I think my dog wants to go for a walk. I think maybe I could turn this off for a bit, and then when I see more changes, then resume video and post updates. So thank you for watching, and have a good day. This is Alchemy of Steven School, not for consumption. Thank you for watching.